Hello, my name is Hayden Wayne. This is the Healing Channel, episode 12. I will be reading episode 1 from In the Street Between Wormholes. Hello, my name is Hayden Wayne. I'm going to read to you from my latest collection of poetry and prose, In the Street Between Wormholes. It is dedicated to my son's godfather, Jan Frank. Standing before one who once was so tall, vitality spilling over, now yellow, wasting away before my eyes, organs failing one by one, no longer able to filter, leaving the body vulnerable to the slow but nonetheless incremental, formidable creep of sepsis. To watch the eyes of communication fade from expression, a drowsy, heavy-lidded look as the biggest sleep of all carries off this fragile, mortal coil. Animation disengaging cell by cell, until the breath leaves, rendering the body free of soul, inert, other than the rapidity of decay exponentially progressed, souring the sweetest of remaining sinew. This host rendered worthless, a spirit released to join the light, as the darkness of death seals the bargain. I had promised Jan I would pass him to the other side with grace and dignity. He soon was no longer able to quench his thirst through a straw. I had to dip a small sponge in the water and let him suck from that. The tide was rising to carry his ship out to sea and the ultimate voyage. As the moment approached, his eyes popped open and he asked me, "What do we take?" I immediately touched his forehead with my index, middle, and fourth fingertips on his third eye. "This is your compass." Then touching his heart, "This is your moral rectitude." Touching his forehead again, "Your sextant," and then his chest, "Your micrometer." "You are an experienced sailor. Your tools are telepathic, limitless." He smiled. "Follow the stars out of our galaxy. Look for wormholes. Don't be afraid of them as they suck in all that energy. Through them you will enter into endless new worlds, the totality of totality, where everything that was, is, and will be is. Have fun. It's remarkable. You will eventually decide whether to enter another pod with your spirit and whole, or many in part. Just step up to the helm and take the wheel, with your eyes on the horizon. He then fell asleep. The morning was electrous as we readied for the sail. The all around was moist, and a chill was in the air. A shroud of fog held to us as the moon slipped from our view, and all throughout the darkness we boarded up our crew. We knew the tide was rising, as was quick the morning sun. To secure our precious cargo, there was so much to be done. And as the blackness turned to purple, then again to blue, the morning star appeared for me to navigate for you. Starlight, star bright, guide her just right, keep us true. And as we slice through valleys and climb mountain tops so high, dropping down forever, then back up to touch the sky, rolling, rolling, pitch, yaw, rolling, rock me with you. The sea was swaying wonder, and the freshest breezes blew. The sun lit us like fire, and I felt so close to you. Oh, the joy of cheering as I held you in my hands, higher as the sun rose, as we sailed for distant lands. And as the wind did stiffen, a briny fragrance filled the air. The ocean spray ran off in sheets and gently wet my hair, flying like a great bird as I held on tenderly. Loving every moment, we slipped deeper out to sea. Starlight, star bright, guide her just right, keep us true. And as we slice through valleys and climb mountain tops so high, dropping down forever, then back up to touch the sky, rolling, rolling, pitch, yaw, rolling, rock me with you. Take me there, take me there, take me there, take me there. Returns this mariner from whence he came to a sea of grace. The winds the same that blew him from a distant shore again have come to sail once more. How quick this life now seems at end, how full beyond to comprehend, and now so short his labored breath uneven at the edge of death. This to be his last sunset until his birth soon, new and wet at the helm, the stars his guide, sailing in and out, new dawns to ride. With trusted dog close at his side, waiting for the rising tide to carry him in peace to sea. His ancient spirit now set free. I realize throughout existence, traveling within ever-unfolding self-realization, our souls drift in tandem universes, navigating infinite multiverses, sometimes seemingly indifferent, but inevitably coinciding to fulfill our purpose, though where that may prove to consolidate is just beyond our knowing, yet determined nonetheless. To be confronted by ego, self-righteous and smugly content, solely predicated upon subjective self-importance, dismissive of the demonstration of the true currency, a lifelong dedication to the perfection of craft, one's life's work suddenly has no more validation or relevance than the singular desire to be acknowledged, awash within a vacuous ocean of mirroring images where the hunger to be liked, regardless of content, is all that matters. Coalescing like-minded vanity in order to erect self-congratulatory legions renders the documentation of lifelong revelations towards excellence on the same level as picking your nose, as if there is an equality between one who happens to witness the rising of the sun with the sun itself. One's vision of the world is truly the world one envisions. The comfort of self-congratulation will inevitably render any confrontation of plausibility, the necessary process in order to evolve, impotent. And inevitably, in this devolved state, we will find ourselves statically looking out and lifeless, reflecting the emptiness from within. Is the interpretive image of what we perceive as important as the entity we are viewing, let alone ourselves? Yes, it certainly has a life of its own, but what do we see other than through a method of comparison? If a soul doesn't understand the postulate and chooses to discard the examination of its plausibility because of the fear of seeming comparative insignificance, a rejection of possible evolution occurs. On the other hand, if this daunting process to understand evokes a curiosity, then the individual chasing the understanding will find him, herself, so activated with the resulting bonding to the hypothesis, while deciding in agreement or not, but more evolved nonetheless because of the commitment to evaluate. There must be a willingness to accept the process of new discovery, regardless of its seeming incongruity, if we desire to not remain static. We laugh because we relate to the experience, not necessarily the end result, but the process of how we got there. It's through this commonality that synergy occurs, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. The power of loyalty and dedication towards the betterment of another soul are noble. Being liked is very rewarding, but unless we pursue such nobility, our vanity will render us inert, staring at our own reflection. Our intimacy is evaporating before our eyes. The convenience of tech toys has afforded the luxury of too many not being accountable for who we are. Not just the delivery of content, is through the very witness of our physicality, the nakedness of our eyes, the lilt of our voice, the spaces between our words, our body language, the potency of our smell, all relegated to contractions, anagrams, covering our inevitable inability to know how to spell, let alone the gesticulation of words as filters of intent that can more often than not soften the diplomacy of ideas. We will lose our ability to interact on a human level. What is life without analog physical intercourse? We are relegating ourselves solely to virtualism. I can hear my mother ranting while we were in the thick of 1967. I'm telling you, there's going to be hell to pay. Nobody's minding the store. It's fuck this, fuck that. We're becoming voyeurs. Mom obviously had an amazing intelligence about the future way before the .com world. Now, how we look at each other is on a screen. Texting is preferred over talking on the phone. Foreplay is a blood test. Pornography has replaced sexual contact because it's safer. Other than the insurmountable fantasies one will have to compete with in reality. With the tech-addicted youth so willing to forfeit their identity, location, address, trends, etc., those of us who read history and have lived long enough to have a perspective are watching the fulfillment of the dire prophecy of George Orwell and Aldous Huxley, an inevitable outcome of complete surveillance on our society, thus always under the microscope with no more rights, inalienable rights, as given to us by our founding fathers, unable to subsequently free ourselves from assumed motivations predicated upon all siphoned information constantly gleaned from our means of communication, thus rendering an automaton group where any individualism will be deemed an aberration and threat to the whole organism. To be human is the quest for the divine through the intimacy of our touch. This new world order, petro, Federal Reserve, military-industrial complex driven, reliant on computers, trapped within cyberspace. Thus, no secrets from those in control, no sharing of dreams within human contact. Fragmented bits, zeros and ones, valued subjectively through oligarchical definition. The result of history is the proof of what we've sown. Culture is about values. 20+ major religions, hundreds of belief systems, 6 billion people following some kind of faith, and our propensity for continuing war. Paleoanthropologists wonder when religion began. How far back does the impulse for spiritual direction go? Do those beings during the beginnings of Stone Age tool-making, who obviously had a preconceived thought of what they were about to make, a mental template, also have simultaneous impulse to visualize some kind of deity to give them spiritual direction? Did they have the ability to think about the past and the future as episodic memory, pre-planning, and imagination? Higher reasoning takes place in the frontal lobes. Does that mean this ability starts only within modern humans? Those whose skulls demonstrated the expanded space for these lobes to develop? 120,000 years ago, we begin to find burials with elaborate grave goods demonstrating some acknowledged ritual practice. 40 to 60,000 years ago, modern humans left Africa, slowly migrating to Europe as the Ice Age began to recede and the existence of an abundance of animal life which could sustain the hunter-gatherers. If you are materially possessed, there will never be enough money. 8 people have the same wealth as 3.6 billion people. 88 people have the same wealth as 5 billion people. 65 million displaced peoples around the world. More than 60 million women worldwide do not have access to education. Reptiles living underground, maneuvering us towards our own self-igniting extermination. GMO'd and righteous, savoring the moment, planning their return after we starve to death. The cruelty of public opinion, impulse consumption, regardless of content, evaluated on delivery system. This passion, this lust, this need, this crying out for more, this subjective state of dissatisfaction, this inability to know reality, this want of instant gratification, this lack of consciousness, this void of skills, this inability to know how to work, this mediocrity, this self-righteousness, this arrogance, this ignorance, this indifference to solutions, this demand to put a Band-Aid on this ever-growing wound, this futility, this impotence, this festering, this nihilism, this anarchy, this entitlement, this refusal of accountability, this self-loathing, this sadism, this pain, this state of being, this masochism, this denial of truth, this death, this. We fall foul from the dangers of the times, inherited positions of power, taken advantage by immorality, lulled by the arrogance of convenience, disregarding balance and resulting catastrophe. Considering there is no money to speak of other than within the ranks of oligarchs, wealth takes on a new dynamic. True wealth is ephemeral. As we choke globally on moral depravity and material greed, it seems the only true wealth we have are the laws of civility, as handed down to us through the revelations of Moses. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. What is life without consciousness? Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. Consciousness is of the mind and not material. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Consciousness is to be cherished always. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Always be conscious, for consciousness is the light. Honor thy mother and father. Wisdom is life. Thou shalt not kill. All life is to be valued. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Family and loyalty are everything. Thou shalt not steal. Only what you earn and create is yours. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Lying is injurious to yourself and your community. Thou shalt not covet. Free will is not to be imposed. Moses is said to have known about the land of milk and honey, but to have not been allowed to see it beyond the river Jordan. The separation of his spirit from his body was the Jordan. The land of milk and honey are the laws of consciousness. Psychology haiku. Paint in between now, and then, when time returns us, look for solutions. Life, a two-way street, as in two-dimensional. An intersection, as in three-dimensional. The entire transportation grid, as in four-dimensional. The totality of totality, as in string theory. I am a monastic priest, a shaman, a seeker of wisdom and truth, documenting the witness of my meditations within a seamless world of focused concentration. Weightless and traveling at light speed, my discoveries through continually working are in the blink of an eye. 15 plus hours a day, 105 plus hours a week, a mastery developed from 340,000 plus hours of life experience, a journey into the totality of totality. This voyage, this particular purpose, this unified consciousness, this singularity. When I take my mind off and look around, the colors of youth are still so rich. It's best to guide things, not get in the way of the flow, to be as frictionless as possible, no matter how hard the climb. I want to find and unite like-minded consciousness. Not that we necessarily agree, but have the passion to discuss. And if within this process I find myself educated, I will consider you a friend for life. It's not about whether I would survive invasive trauma, but how much energy will I expend, and how much more can I subsequently manufacture. A declaration of independence. I am a tribal elder. You are my future. It is my moral responsibility to create a synergy which will ignite perpetual regeneration. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably to the same object, we must act or perish. We are at a tipping point. Why the negativity? Ask ourselves. There is no reason. There's only time for solutions. The macrocosmic is so disparately diverse, beyond comprehension, beyond fixing. The microcosmic, however, begins between our ears and grows through conversation within a household, a neighborhood, a community, a district, a county, a state, a region, a nation. Imagine thinking collectively for the greater good. Imagine perpetually. Stay conscious. Maximize everything possible. Find lightness of being. Don't forget to breathe. Repair the face of God with every good deed. Stop whining. Focus on what's possible. Seek the light within, without. It fascinates me how vitriolic heat expresses itself without ever showing solutions. If you're not willing to make the effort to change what is wrong, then don't complain. Everyone wants to be accepted. But when acceptance is at the expense of another's soul, then the individual is not worthy of acceptance. When will we finally wake up and realize we are one people, within one consciousness, within one biosphere, if not also connected within the greater universe? As it has been said by indigenous peoples, this is an interconnecting web. Pull any of its strings, and the whole is affected. Political correctness is the socialism of the mind, where there is no difference between winners and losers, because there is no recognition of the exceptional. At this rate, soon enough pronouns such as he and she will be deemed too aggressive. What we create is the documented proof of our meditation. Don't forget the instructions how to live on earth. If you are not connected spiritually, you will not survive. Everything has a spirit. We are one family, one cohesive life force. Leadership is about responsibility to the greater good. Some doors only open from inside. Breathing is a key to focus how to unlock these doors. The environment of ourselves creates the destiny of ourselves. Juxtaposition determines the impact of expression. Simply put, it's the art of the game. A new way to be. Pranayama. Sanskrit, prana, life force. Yama, lengthening. Breathing for good health. Research has shown you cannot hold an emotion in your body for more than 7 seconds unless you fuel it. Anxiety is in the mind, and as such can only exist if we choose to allow it to dwell within us. It has been clinically proven it is biologically impossible to have an anxiety or panic attack if you are breathing slowly, deeply, and evenly. It is time for us to solve our problems, not from the symptom, but from the root. Our breath must be in cadence with the flow of the natural universe. We cannot exist without our breath. To breathe is life. Without breath, we die. Controlling the mind is possible by controlling the breathing. Dream. Then allow